take a look at problems in the world and look for technological solutions to fix them. And the very first 12 ideas, some of them were going to work, some of them were not. I didn't know which were which. But our first ideas were Answers.com, eToys, Shopping.com, CitySearch.com, Tickets.com, Cooking.com, a whole bunch of e-commerce companies, because I thought we could make e-commerce so much more effective by talking to people directly. CitySearch.com, we wanted to make the first Yellow Pages online. Idea Market, we wanted to make a place where people could share ideas online. Visual Planet, we wanted to, early on, we wanted to do something maybe like Street View, way back when, way too early. Each of these companies we were going to fund with the first $250,000, build a team around each of them, and then help them raise additional capital, maybe another $500,000 to $1 million to run for their first year. Well, of these first 12, only 7 were able to raise additional money, but 7 were able to raise additional money. So 5 of them went out of business in the first year just because we couldn't come up with a story that was strong enough to help them raise additional money beyond our first $250,000. But of those 7, many of them went on to greatness. We took those first ideas, we then have grown that into an organization that has built more than 150 over the last years, and as you've heard, we've helped the companies raise a lot of capital across that time. I'm probably most proud of the fact that we created 10,000 jobs and the change we've made to society. Because every company you start out with, you want to try and make some change to the world. You want to try and make something come into existence that wouldn't have happened without you. And that's what we're most excited about. I want to tell you about a few of the companies, but mostly I want to tell you about my lessons learned. Some of them painful lessons learned that hopefully can help you. If even one of those lessons you can put to use in your business or your idea, either in your existing business or to help you start a business, that will make me so gratified that the painful lessons I learned can be used again by you to make the world a better place. One of our companies, Evolution Robotics, I had a dream in 2001 of building the first robot operating system. I saw a bunch of things converging. I saw Wi-Fi coming into place. I saw sensors getting cheaper, cameras were getting cheaper, computing power was getting cheaper. I thought that's going to enable mass market robotics. We were way too early with the idea for a robot operating system. There were not enough robots out there to need a robot operating system. But we started with that premise, and as we learned that that wasn't going to work, we pivoted to making indoor robots that could navigate on their own, localize, do path planning, find their charging station, automatically move, and we built that into floor cleaners that eventually was acquired by iRobot. They wanted the technology that we had developed to do indoor navigation, and now they put that inside of their indoor robots. We had built one robot to do that. We sold $25 million worth of it at Target, and then iRobot acquired the company. So my initial dream had a pivot because we were way too early with the idea for a robot operating system. I'll talk a little bit more about timing and how important that is later. Another company we started in 2008 was a company called Aptera. I wanted to make a super streamlined electric vehicle. I wanted to make the most streamlined, most aerodynamic vehicle on the road to try and save fuel. Going back to my early idea, my early passion that I told you about of trying to make the planet more renewable, I really wanted to do this. We were able to build a prototype car, use that car to raise $5 million. Then we used multiple prototypes to raise $20 million. We had 4,000 pre-orders of the vehicle for $25,000 each. So we had $100 million in pre-orders. And then the wild recession hit. It just crushed us. We were not able to get DOE financing. We needed a $150 million loan to be able to build the factory to make the vehicles. And all of that dried up. No appetite for lending money to build factories possible at all after that crash. So we had to close the company. Really, really unfortunate, very, very bad timing, but something that I dreamed about greatly, and it still was so great to be able to take it as far as we did and give it that try. Another company we started in 2002, we saw digital cameras taking off, and we thought that the software that came with the cameras was awful, and that people would want a better way to manage their photos. So we started a company called Picasa, and this company grew to be the leader in photo management, and then Google acquired this company in 2004, right before they went public. And they actually forced us, probably against our will, to take pre-IPO stock, which turned out to be the greatest thing that ever happened to us. But it was really fortunate that Google took that product. The only reason we sold it to Google was they promised that they were going to keep that product going along. We were afraid they were acquiring it just to shut it down, not to have a competitor, but they promised they would keep it going, and they did, which is incredible. They kept it going all the way through and even turned it into Google Photos now. So we're so excited that Google kept that commitment, and it was a really, really great opportunity to have an impact on photo management. I started a company called eSolar to try and bring concentrated solar and automated tracking mirrors, computer-controlled mirrors to make high temperatures. I'll talk to you more about that later. And you heard about this company, GoTo. We started this company in 1998, and it really came about because of our own internal need in our companies. All of our companies were trying to buy traffic. This speaks to how important it is to solve a real pain point in the world that you see. And I saw this one greatly, maybe before other people did. But we had about 20 companies at the time, and all of them were trying to buy traffic to their websites. And all of them were buying banner ads. That was the way you bought traffic to your websites back then. And banner ads were really, really inefficient, really ineffective. You couldn't track how well they worked, and all you cared about was how much were you paying to get a visitor to come to your site. Well, I would always ask our CEOs whenever they bought banner ads, like you could go to AOL back then and pay $3 million for a 2-year privilege of being featured in their gardening section, for example. But they didn't tell you anything about how much traffic they were going to give you, anything about the performance, and I thought that was ridiculous. The whole thing about the internet would be you can track things. You should pay for performance. Why should you be paying for advertising like you do in a magazine when you can actually track the clicks? So we had this idea of pay per click. What about if you made a search engine where instead of just paying for impressions, you actually paid only on the clicks that came into you? And what about if you could bid on keywords? And what about if there was an auction on every keyword? Well, that idea was actually despised at the time when we came out with it. People really, really hated that idea. But I really felt that was the way things will go. I really thought that was very important for our own companies, but I thought it was really fixing a bad problem that the internet could uniquely solve. So that led us to start that company. We raised the initial capital for it. Well, we put in the initial capital. We raised some additional capital for it. The revenues took off like crazy. The company had an IPO in almost a year and a half, very, very fast because the growth was so fast. And then eventually, the company was acquired by Yahoo for $1.6 billion in 2003, and the patents for it were acquired by Google for $360 million because they infringed on those. I had thought at the time, $360 million for those patents. It was the highest IP sale, I think, in history at that time. But it was actually worth $100 billion. So they got the bargain of all time, and I'm so happy, though, that that lives on, empowering so much of the monetization of the internet. We're so proud to have had a part in that. And it was a very, very exciting example of going sort of against the grain, and I'll talk about that in some of my lessons. Okay, so what are my top 10 lessons learned? I'm going to tell you 10 lessons, and I hope if even one of these is useful to you, it will make a big, big difference for you. These are things I wish someone had pulled me aside 40 years ago and told me. Okay, the very first one on ideas. GoTo was an example of that. You need to find, I believe, a contrarian idea that's true. So Peter Thiel says the following thing. Tell me something that's true that almost nobody agrees with you on. If he asks this question during interviews, what do you know that's true but that other people don't believe yet? That is so valuable if you have that insight. That insight is very important. Ray Dalio, the incredible investor, says, the consensus is already priced in. So to be a great investor or inventor, you have to bet against the consensus and be